So for this piece, I'll be doing some fan art of Gojo Satoru from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a really nice anime. I'd recommend you guys go watch it. And so I'm just starting out with the simple gestures. I usually have a mood board where I just go on Pinterest. I look for really cool character poses, and I look for references for the actual characters, right? So here you can just see on the right side, I have an image that I added to my mood board from Pinterest. So I just have some poses that I wanted. I imagine him kicking himself. So this one is it looks like someone that's falling, someone that has been kicked. And then the other one is just someone doing a nice flying kick move. So, and then for the third gesture, this is one of those times when you do something and you're not really sure how you did this. Like, I didn't even know I could do this. Like, look at that extreme perspective when we're looking at him from above, right? So I just pictured it in my head and I was able to do it. I was actually surprised that I could actually do that. But after that, I went on YouTube and I watched a lot of tutorials on perspective, and I was able to figure out, how I was able to, get that really dynamic angle. So if you'd like me to make a video on perspective, on drawing really extreme perspective, so just let me know in the comments and I'll do a video on that. And now I'm on my sketch layer and I'm just building up the fabric, taking up the drapery. Now I'm looking at the character references, right? So just to get the character designs, and I'm trying to figure out how to drape the clothing over the pose I have on the layer underneath. So I can see I'm just using like really simple lines. Now this is something I would suggest you do. Now if you're already used to drawing digitally, I'll advise you to turn off stabilization. Like, I just tried turning off stabilization and it really helps my gestures. Like particularly when you're doing your sketches, like, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but like stabilization adds this, it's not as free flowing, it's not as fluid as drawing without stabilization, right? So if you're already used to drawing with stabilization and you're used to digital art in general, you're used to drawing with your pen, I suggest you just turn off your stabilization and see if that works for you. It might just, like in my own case, it just helps me to be able to draw more dynamically, because when you have some stabilization, there's a bit of limitation, right? You can't just make like really sharp edgy lines like that. It's not, there's still some control from the software. The software still has some control over your lines, but like without stabilization, you're free to draw your lines any way you want. So you can make really nice squiggly lines. Like, it's just like zero stabilization, it's just freedom, man. Like, I don't know if you get what I mean. And now I'm starting with the line arts again with my double line brush for the clothing, my textured pen for other parts of the character. So this is one tip for drawing. Particularly when you're doing the final line arts, the less lines you use, the better, right? So try to use as little lines or as few lines as possible. So, and it just helps you create the illusion of rhythm, right? So when you're drawing, when you have good rhythm, you tend to use like fewer lines to make your drawings. So that's just a pro tip. I'm still amazed by how I was able to draw this really extreme perspective. But anyway, now I'm on my grayscale folder and I'm just selecting the characters and clipping them, the usual thing you guys already know. But anyway, if you're new to this channel, if this is your first video, I just select the characters and then clip them to a grayscale folder and then fill it with a simple gray, and then from there I just create different layers and pick lighter grays and just flesh out the forms. So I'm just using the lasso tool with the airbrush, just bringing out the forms that I want. It's like you're just chiseling out all the areas that light is going to hit, and then from time to time I just switch off my line art layer to see if the forms are reading accurately. So if your forms look like, if your grayscale layer looks like like a kind of 3D statue, you're able to, tell where light is hitting and the forms are really popping out, then yeah, you're doing the right thing. And just like my line arts, I'm using the polygonal lasso tool to have, so I have a lot of all these hard edges. I just prefer working with that style. I just like that style. And then if you notice in the shadow side, you can see the lighting scenario I used for the one with the extreme perspective, right? So the shadow side usually have less detail in the shadow side. So if you notice in the line art that falls inside the shadow side, I just use the airbrush to reduce on transparency. So I just made it less opaque. So I just painted in some transparency there. So and now I'm on my flats layer, selecting the forms and filling the flats. And in some areas where I want there to be some variation, I'm using the airbrush with some textures on the flat layers. Also adding some colorations to his face. And then for his hair, I just created another layer, clipped it to the line art layer and filled it with the particular color that I want. So the idea I had for this piece is that, there's going to be this cast shadow on his figure, right, as you can see there. And then inside the shadow area, the light from his phone is going to bring out some of the forms there. So, and then on the light side, there's going to be this red or orange light source. And then I just created a soft light layer to add some saturation because, after using grayscale, I think this is a general problem with grayscale, but like when you use a grayscale layer, you find out that some areas just look a bit muddy and like they don't have enough. You might want to add some saturation in certain areas, so a soft light layer is really good for that. And then I'm using my square brush to just add in some more details, adding some of that orange lights on overlay layer, using some color dodge in certain areas as well. If you want to know, if you want to really study how I'm structuring my layers and how everything is, on my Patreon I upload PSDs and Clip Studio source files. So this is really helpful for when you want to understand what's doing. So you can just get the source files, open them up in your drawing software. You can use them in either Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint. The files have all the layer information, so you can just study what I'm doing. So it'll just make everything easier for you to understand. And then I just use some texture brushes to add some textures to his hair. So you can see how I use those texture brushes to just bring out the details on his hair. And then I wanted to have like a kind of split complementary color scheme. That's why you see the bright purple. So there's purples, there's blues, and then there's like a yellowish green or greenish yellow that I added to the ground. So overall, it's like a split complementary color scheme. And then I really love Japanese kanji characters, so I just used a pen. I just used a textured pen to write I think Gojo Satoru in Japanese. You can see how I just used that triangular composition. Look at that triangle shape that I'm creating with the characters. Right from the sketching phase, you just want to think about the composition and how everything is going to look. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for this video. Consider liking and subscribing for more. Till next time.